Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Sean McAway, and today you're tuned in to WowPodcast. Today we're going to speak to WowPodcast Book of the Week author Donna Cowan. She's the author of With the Courage of a Mouse, the Superhero School Series, book number 1. Illustrations done by Diane J. Reed. Donna, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have my book finally out. It's been a 2-year odyssey trying to get this book out to the kids, but it's finally done. I'm excited about it.
So tell me, what was the inspiration and that aha moment that made you want to write this particular book?
Well, that in itself is another interesting story. It came about from a question from my then 6.5-year-old granddaughter. She was asking me about what my one cat was doing at night, and she would go out and stay gone for hours and wouldn't come back. And then when she did, she was exhausted. And I couldn't answer her right away, but because I was making up stories for them at night at bedtime, about 2 weeks later, I came up with this story about her being a superhero and going out and saving her animal friends and their adventures and stuff. And then they decided that that was a secret identity, and so we couldn't really tell the story of what she's doing now, but I could go and tell the story how she became a superhero.
How do you form a relationship with the illustrator? I see you have it illustrated by Diane Reed. Can you tell me how that relationship started between you two?
Well, it was interesting as well. I was looking for an illustrator about halfway through the book and was not having a lot of luck with somebody that would click with you. It's a kind of an intimate relationship to have somebody be able to interpret your words into visual form. And I actually came across Diane on an Instagram post where she was doing children's illustrations of their pets. And so I had talked to her, and her one dream was to illustrate a children's book. So we got together and worked it out, and here we are. It's been a huge odyssey in that back in March, Diane suffered a stroke and was actually in a coma for several months. And when she woke up from that coma, she was not able to do most things. And so she had to relearn how to walk and talk and draw and hold a pen. And here we are less than 6 months later, and she has fully illustrated this book. I am beyond amazed and inspired by her dedication and her willingness every single day.
Wow, that's a wow podcast moment. That's a very inspirational story for her to go through that and to come out, triumphant in the end. So tell me, how was the publishing process for you? Did you self-publish or did you traditionally publish?
Well, I actually did neither. I did a hybrid publishing, which is kind of, self-publishing with help. And
okay.
It worked out for me. I went through the Author Academy Elite system with Kerry Oberbrunner. That has worked out very well for me. He basically coaches me through the whole process of writing the book and getting it published, but I am technically self-published. But, it worked out very well for me. I highly recommend it. I've been writing for 45 years and never thought that I was a good enough writer to be published, and Kerry was able to convince me that I certainly was good enough. And here we have this beautiful book that's the beginning of a series, and I am inspired every day by people that have read the book saying that they just love it, they can't put it down, they can't wait for book 2.
So let me go back and revisit something that you just said. What made you feel like you wasn't good enough to write a book? Why would you feel that?
Well, I think some of it, probably about half of it's just personal, not belief in myself, which I do touch on a lot in the book. We listen so much to what everyone around us has to say, and we often don't listen to our own self. And I just felt like I just didn't have the education or the background or the skill to do it. I read all these amazing books from other authors, and I'm just like, I would love to be able to do that. I just didn't feel like I was there yet, and I wasn't sure I was ever going to get there. But Carrie said something to me, and he's just like, it doesn't matter. He goes, the story that you have right now is what people want to hear.
What's a bit of advice that you would give the listeners on something about the publishing process that you didn't know was easy or you just never thought about?
Well, there's so many parts and pieces to publishing a book. I always thought that writing the story was going to be the most difficult point, but it really wasn't. And not that any of it was particularly difficult. It is a lot of organizing, and you do have to learn to trust people because you do put your trust in other people's hands. I had to trust Diane with the illustrations, to make the book better and make it a little easier to read for the middle grade children's age group. But I also had to, trust my editor to make it the best book possible. And sometimes that's a really hard thing. It's not that you don't know that the editor is going to do a good job. It's just trusting. It's like it's your child, it's your baby, and it's the first time you're letting them out of your sight, and you're just terrified.
So tell the listeners where they could purchase your book and where they can find you on social media.
Well, my book is available worldwide. You can order from Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Kobo. It is available through your local bookstore. They may not have it actually in stock, but you can request it through your local bookseller, and they can get it for you. You can go and check in with me. The easiest place would be my website, which is DonnaSagerCowan.com. That's Donna, D-O-N-N-A, Sager, S-A-G-E-R, Cowan, C-O-W-A-N.com. You can go there and catch up on all of my current events, and there are links to all of my social media and links to purchase the book.
Well, you're tuned in to WowPodcast. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. We're talking to author Donna Sager Cowan. She's the author of With the Courage of a Mouse, the Superhero School Series, book number 1. Illustrations done by Diane J. Reed.
Donna, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you. I have enjoyed meeting with you today, and I certainly appreciate being Book of the Week for the Wow Podcast. So thank you very much.